Hello and welcome back to the Lobo Designs channel. My name is Heather Lynn. I'm the owner of Lobo Designs, and I'm here today with a tutorial on how to edit handwritten recipes for laser engraving. So let's get started. I'm going to be using a photo of my own recipe that I took. It's in my own handwriting. It's on a little bit of a busy background so that I can show you how I get rid of all of this noise when all I'm looking to do is engrave the text on a handwritten recipe. So the first thing that I do is while I'm in the iPad Photos app, just the regular Photos app, I open the photo and I tap on it and I go up to the top here and hit edit. What I'm going to want to do from here is I'm going to be editing the colors inside the photo to change this into a black and white photo and make the white areas around the text as bright as I possibly can so that it's easy to get the background and everything else away from the text when we're editing. So I'm going to go over here on the side and I'm going to tap this little icon over here on the top, which is going to bring up sliders on the side here over here so that I can edit the photo, the contrast, the brightness, and things like that. The first thing that I do is I scroll up and I go to the black point, which is this dot right here. And I'm going to take the black point all the way up to make the text as dark as I possibly can. The next thing I'm going to do is take the saturation, which is right next to the black point, and I'm going to take the saturation all the way down so that we're removing all of the color from the photo. And then the next thing that I do is I go up and I just play with these sliders for the brightness, the contrast, the shadows and whatnot to get this as bright as I can. This will be different from every single photo that you have based on the background and what the paper looks like, what the writing looks like. So you're going to have to play with these. There's no straight formula on which ones to use and when. So you're just going to see me playing around with these for a bit. And my goal is to get the background of these letters as white/bright as I can. I'm going to take the brightness. I'm going to brighten it up a bit. Contrast. There we go. Shadows. Leave that right about there. Highlights I'm going to take down a bit. And exposure. I'm going to leave it right about there. When you're finished with your edits, you're going to click done up here at the top right. Now what I do is I use an app called Magic Eraser. What Magic Eraser does is it takes all of the background here that you want to get rid of and it turns it into a transparent background PNG. You can do this in Procreate for the editing step, but if your plan is to get rid of all of the white areas around this text, it's much easier to do when you're in Magic Eraser than it is when you're in Procreate, because when you're in Procreate, you'll start to erase around here and you will literally have to go all the way around each individual line to erase the white, whereas in Magic Eraser, you can just tap to erase it. And I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to close this. Magic Eraser is this icon down here. I'm going to tap on Magic Eraser. I'm going to get out of the project that I was just in. I'm going to pick the project that I was just working on. So this is the photo that we just edited. I'm going to tap on it once. And what it's going to do is it's going to bring up a screen where I can crop anything that I need to crop out of this photo. I'm going to leave this one as is just because it's easier to crop for me and spin it around once it's in Procreate. And right now cropping it isn't going to do much for me unless I move this down a little bit and maybe move this up a little bit. But I don't have to do that in this because it's very easy to erase all of these sides. So I could have left it as is. I'll zoom in just so I can show you how that works. So now that we have this cropped, I'm going to go up here in the top right and I'm going to click done. Now we have this photo. The first thing that I do is I use this tolerance button down here. And what that does is it erases things for you. So what I'm going to show you is while I have the tolerance button selected, I'm going to tap one time in the white area around the text. And what that did is it got rid of all of the white space around the text and you're seeing the transparent background right now. So there's a tile down here at the bottom left that you can click on. This will drive whether or not you see black, white, or transparency behind the text that you're erasing. So if I tap this once, you're going to see black. And basically what this is you're seeing through the paper. I erased all of that white area, so you're basically seeing the transparency right here. You can switch it to white, which I prefer when I'm editing because that's going to show me exactly what it looks like when I export. So I'm going to keep it at white, but if you ever want to switch back and forth between those three, you just tap on these tiles down here and it'll alternate as needed. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this eraser button right here. I'm going to tap on it once, and I'm going to move this slider up a little bit to make it bigger. See this screen and this in the middle? That is the size of your eraser right now, and I'm going to start erasing the sides, so I need it to be a little bit bigger just so it goes quicker. And I'm just going to use it like I would a regular eraser. I'm just going to be erasing all of this extra stuff on the side that I do not need. Get rid of that, erase. And then I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna get rid of as much of this bottom noise as I can, but I'm gonna leave right around that text because it's easier to zoom in and fix that with a smaller brush. I'm gonna turn this around, again, erasing as much as I can off of the sides. Zooming in, I'm gonna go around these as best I can, making sure that I don't erase any of the original text. Get rid of this border. Same thing here, just going around making sure I don't erase any of the original photo aside from what I want to get rid of, the things that I do not want to erase. So I'm just getting rid of all of this noise all the way up. And then what I'll do is I'm going to show you how to shrink that eraser back down and erase around the lettering at the bottom. So now we have all of this gone. Spin this back around. I'm going to go into the bottom here. I'm going to take the slider for my eraser all the way down. See how small that one is in the middle? And I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to go around this letter just so I can create the original shape of the letter since we lost it a little bit. Erase around here. And then same thing with the J. I'm going to go around the curve of the J as best I can, inside and outside. And now I can make the eraser a little bit bigger and go back in here and clean the rest of this stuff up. The last step when you're a magic eraser is erasing the insides of any of the compound letters that have shapes in the middle of them, like this O. The white is still in the middle of this. I don't know if you can tell on my screen, but this is white. This is the original paper color. So what you can do here, and what I do here, is I switch to black. So I'm gonna tap this down here. Now we're on black. I'm gonna go back to this tolerance wand down here, and I'm just going to zoom in and tap once anywhere I see a white area. And it will go in and it will erase all of these little white spots. So you're just gonna go through and tap all of these white spots, and I'm gonna do that really quickly. I'll do a time lapse, so I'll be right back. Pausing for one moment here, this is the undo button. So if you accidentally tap on a letter and you erase the letter itself, you can tap the undo button up here to put that letter back. Back into the time lapse. Now that all of that is done, I'm going to switch back to the white background so I can see the final piece. And this is what we're going to work on in Procreate to make sure that we don't have to retrace anything. What I'm going to do in Procreate is show you how to darken up the letters down here a little bit because they started to fade out, but you can trace over anything you want in Procreate. So now we're going to export this for Magic Eraser. Up here in the top right corner, you're going to click this button. In the PNG box, you're just going to tap one time inside this box. It will ask you to export as high res or low res. I always export as high res. And what it does is it saves it to your camera roll. So now we can hop into Procreate. We're going to hop into the Procreate app. We'll hide these layers. So we're starting on a fresh layer. And I'm going to import that photo. So the first thing that we're going to do is go up into the top button here. This is the Actions menu. You want to make sure that you have the Add tab highlighted here. And you're going to insert a photo. Find the photo that you just exported from Magic Eraser, tap once, and it'll import it onto your artboard. Now you can edit it from here on how you want it to look. So I'm just gonna rotate this a little bit. And once you're done editing, you wanna tap this arrow up here to make sure that the transform tool is no longer selected. And what I'm going to show you now is how to clean up this bottom enjoy because it's a little bit lighter than the rest of the project. And what you can see in here is if I were to ever turn off this background layer, we still have this transparent background PNG versus what would happen if we had cleaned it up in Procreate. We'd still have this white area in here, which your laser would ignore, but it's not fun to use white background JPEGs or PNGs if you're using them for mockups. So if you were taking a photo of a cutting board and you were going to layer this over the photo of the cutting board, it looks a lot more realistic if you're using the transparent background PNG than if you were using a big white square, a big white rectangle just dropped on top of that cutting board. So I like to use these as mock-ups so my customers can see what my products are going to look like. And that's the reason that I use the magic eraser step, because it turns it into a transparent background PNG easier than it would be if I were to trace around each individual letter. So I'm going to zoom in here as much as I can. I'm going to go up into my brush menu, and I'm using the Lobo Trace brush today. If you attended the Next Level Laser Conference, you have a free download in your Dropbox folder for this brush. If you are looking to purchase this brush, it is for sale in my Etsy shop. I'm going to be using the trace brush, and what I do is I zoom in as much as I can, and I try and match the brush size over here to the size of the letters. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure that I'm drawing on a layer that isn't the photo. So I'm going to make one additional layer here. Layer 5 has the photo on it. Layer 6 will be the one that I'm drawing on. And I want to make sure that I'm drawing in true black. So up here in the top right corner, you're going to click on your colors button. And if you just double tap anywhere in this bottom area of the disc, it'll pick true black for you. So now that we have true black selected, I'm going to go through and just make sure that my brush size matches up to the pen size that was used for the letter. So I think that this should probably work fine. 2 fingers to undo, 3 fingers to redo. So if you leave a mark and you don't like it, 2 fingers tap, 3 fingers to redo if you accidentally undid something that you wanted to keep there. And I'm just going to trace over this a little bit to darken up the bottom. So I'm going to go over this. And again, I'm on my own individual layer. That way, if for any reason I make a mark that I don't love, I can go up here and I can just turn this layer off and I still have my original. So again, I'm just going to run through this real quick, darken up the areas that I don't think are dark enough. This is all a personal preference, entirely up to you on how much cleanup that you do. Just make sure that you pay attention to the line weight so that it doesn't look out of place in comparison to the original. Once you have all of your edits done and you have it as dark as you want it to be, go over this one more time. Zoom out, get this little dot there, you can zoom out. If you want to darken up anything else, you can, but once you're finished with this, you are ready to export it for an engrave. So what you're going to want to do is you'll go up here into your layers panel. You're going to go to this background layer at the bottom and uncheck the box next to it so that you have no background. You're going to go up again into the actions menu. This time you're going to go into the share tab in the middle, and you're going to share this as a PNG. So you're going to tap PNG, and then what I usually do is I airdrop it. So I'm going to airdrop it to my Mac right here just by tapping it one time, and then it will airdrop over to my Mac, and I will have it ready to drop into either Adobe Illustrator if I'm using it for a project, or directly into Lightburn if I'm just using it for a basic engrave. You do not need to vectorize this if you're engraving it. I do not recommend vectorizing anything as far as a recipe goes. If you're cutting it out, I feel like that may cost you your sanity. But if you want to vectorize it, you would want to pull it into a design software that does export to vector, because Procreate only exports to raster. And that concludes this tutorial. As always, feel free to join us in the Glowcreate group on Facebook for additional tips and tricks on how to use Procreate and Adobe Illustrator beyond the screen to turn your digital artwork into physical products. If you enjoyed this video and would like to be notified of future tutorials, please hit the like button and subscribe below. Until next time, this is Heather Lynn of Lobo Design signing off. I'll holla at you later.